sickos, perverts, degenerates, horror fans. This is Dick. You're listening to Popcorn on the Macabre. And I just wanted to talk about the movie Creepshow. I was on social media the other day, and which I very rarely do nowadays just because I fucking hate it. I think it's toxic as hell. But I was on Instagram or Facebook. Can't remember which one. Twitter maybe. Hell, they all suck shit. But it's like when you get on there, you know you're going to see something that pisses you off. You might come across a cute dog or somebody's recommending a cool movie or something, and you get a good release of serotonin or dopamine. You get that little rush. You're like, oh, I saw something cool on social media for once. But then somebody, some asshat, fucking says something that really just makes you mad, and it's designed to do that, by the way. But this guy, he was talking shit about the movie Creepshow. And so I just wanted to talk about that. I figured, okay, I plan on doing a commentary for Creepshow in the near future, but I just wanted to talk about it because I love the movie. And the way this guy was talking about the movie, it wasn't fair to me because he was like a newcomer. He was this guy who had, and I know who he is. Not to put him down, he's a pretty good dude, but he was being completely unfair to this fucking movie. And it was like, he had waited fucking 30 years to watch this movie. So now he's watching it as an adult, and he's seeing it just through a different lens. But, and I understand that, but I don't think it would have mattered for me if I'd have saw this movie when I was a kid or an adult. I think it's a great movie either way. It's a George Romero movie, and he was even kind of talking shit about George Romero, and it really just, got my fucking blood boiling. But anyway, I was going to talk about that. I was going to talk about Creepshow, and I was going to actually rank the stories, because I love, all 5 of the stories are great. I might even talk about part 2 a little bit. I don't know. This is going to be kind of a messy, off-the-cuff fucking episode. I didn't even really plan on recording this. It just, to be honest, guys, I feel like shit. I feel like ass. Don't worry. I don't have fucking COVID or anything. But I just, you ever just have a case of the fuck-its? Like, you just like, fuck it, fuck everything. I'm going to lie back and not do shit today. I was kind of in one of those moods. And, but I'm feeling a little bit better. I kind of had a little headache going on. And, but, I drank some water. Fucking tossed back a little bit of whiskey. And, I feel like I just need like a hot bath. And just probably need to toss off or something. But, I don't know. But now that I'm doing this, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And I think normally when I talk about horror movies, I automatically just start feeling better. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about Creepshow. Because Creepshow, to me, this guy on Facebook, he can just lick my ball bag. Because Creepshow, to me, I don't want to just be fucking hyperbolic and be like, oh, it's a fucking masterpiece. It's up there with, like some of the great, like it's not like the Citizen Kane of horror films or anything, but it's pretty fucking good. It is one of the best anthology horror films ever made. Because I feel like anything anthology wise that came out after Creepshow definitely owes a big debt to it. But yeah, so just, strap in, get comfortable. That's what I'm doing. This is another stormy night here. I got the rain going outside. Nice little vibe. Perfect night for a horror movie, by the way. So if you guys just, if you feel like listening to this, then let's go. If you don't, then, that's fine. You can just put on Creepshow while you listen to this. But starting out, I will just say, I'm not going to get into the details of Creepshow. I will save that for the commentary that we're going to do in the near future. But I'll go ahead and just start with my ranking. I'd have to say that my least favorite would be The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. And I don't know if that upsets people or not. It seems like the general consensus is that it is the worst one. It seems like most people don't like it. It feels like it needs to be in another movie. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's the tone. I know it's real tongue-in-cheek, and I like it. I mean, I get it. I know what they were kind of going for. But I think, Stephen King definitely hams it up. But that doesn't kill it for me. That doesn't detract from anything. But it's just a little cartoonish for me. But I love the story. I love the fact that, this fucking meteor crashes and you get this weird weed stuff growing from it. I always like that because that definitely reminds me of those 50s science fiction tales. I'm pretty sure that's what they were going for. But when I was a kid, it kind of weirded me out. And I think that's what scared me the most about it, was that it was just so bizarre and offbeat. I'd never really seen anything like it. And it seemed like it was aimed at kids almost. It kind of had this Goosebumps feel to it. Because I was actually reading a lot of Goosebumps books around the same time I saw Creepshow. I was probably about 10 years old when I first saw Creepshow, and my mom got it for me at Christmas. And, I had never seen it before. I think I saw the second one before I saw the first one. I may have talked about this before in our Creepshow 2 episode. But I just remember being really excited by the first Creepshow. And I knew that it had, I knew it was a George Romero movie. And see, I'd already kind of known who George Romero was just because I was a huge fan of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I had seen those films before Creepshow. But, yeah, I just remember getting the VHS for Christmas and just loving it, But back to the Jordy Verrill story. It just felt out of place. And I still like it. I even like the creepy guy too. Kind of shows up, he does cameos throughout the whole thing. I think his name is Bingo O'Malley. He was like a character actor. He was real good in Out of the Furnace. But I like those little interludes, kind of like those little dream sequences that Stephen King has. Every time he worries about some shit, this guy pops up, and then he plays his dad. And that was a real creepy part too, when Jordy looks in the bathtub and he sees that sparkling water. There's a real surreal feel to that tale. But all in all, I just think it ranks the lowest for me. The humor works. I mean, it's definitely got some quotable lines. That meteor shit, and maybe I can glue it back together in the morning, and there's definitely just a lot of memorable stuff in there. Verrill luck, always in, always bad. But yeah, it's a good one. It's not perfect, but it's a good one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about it that I can mention right off. I like how it ends. It's kind of like The Birds, where that the threat is still there, and even though you have the scene where Jordy just blows his fucking brains out, that those weeds are going to continue to grow, and because it shows the sign at the end, where it's going into town, and I like that. I thought that was real, apocalyptic, real, kind of had a gloom and doom feel to it, and I said that the tone was different, and I feel like it is compared to all the other stories, but it's weird because at the same time the whole movie has a singular tone to it. It's almost like the whole thing is different. Is different than the sum of its parts, because each story kind of has its own tone, but then the movie itself just has this overall tone that encapsulates it. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I mean, that's the best way I know how to put it, because all these stories are different, but yet they're the same. And maybe that's because George Romero directed all of them, and they just have a different flair to them. It's how a lot of times anthologies nowadays will be directed by a multitude of different directors, so you have tonally speaking, you do have inconsistencies. And I feel like a lot of anthologies suffer from that creatively, you know? I'm not like a huge anthology fan. When I was a kid, I loved them. Like, I loved Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, you know, which I love Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, by the way. But I grew up on like a lot of these TV shows. I mean, around the time I was like an early adolescent and stuff, I was watching, you know, that HBO Tales from the Crypt and Freddy's Nightmares, shit like that. But then, you know, as I got older, there was it seemed like anthologies have started to die a little bit. But when Trick or Treat came out, I was like, fuck, this is one of the best. Like, that Trick or Treat to me is definitely up there with Creepshow, in my opinion. But anyway, back to my ranking. So that's my number 5, The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. My number 4 would have to be, let me think about this for a second, just so I don't fuck up and say the wrong thing. Man, you know, I'm going to have to say that my number 4, it seems like it used to be a little higher on my list, but my number 4 now is going to have to be Father's Day. You know, and it's not that it sucks. You know, keep in mind, folks, I like all of these fucking stories. All these tales. Like, they're great. But Father's Day, to me, it's just, the more I watch it, I'm like, okay, he's a zombie. You know, he's basically a zombie, which, I mean, you can say that for the most part. I mean, a lot of these stories kind of deal with that same theme. You know, people coming back from the dead. But there's something about Father's Day that just is a little redundant to me now. And maybe it's because it's kind of slow. It's the first story, and I like how it sets the tone for the rest of the movie. It just kind of takes a while to build up to it. But I like how it really, it kind of, you know, it sets up the whole lore. Like, it tells, you know, the story of, like, Nathan Grantham, and you know, and that was always scary to me, how you had, like, those little comic book panel frames, and it was really nightmarish and whimsical in a real sinister way. You know, it's just I mean, it's a good story, but it kind of, I would say towards the end, it starts fizzling out. And maybe it ends too abruptly for me, too. But, you know, I like it all in all. I just think it kind of has wore out its welcome. And I think, you know, internet culture has sort of killed a lot of things for me. And in particular, I mean, that you just see a lot of Father's Day stuff now. It's, you know, the whole, there's just a lot of memes about it, and, you know, you just see it, you kind of see it everywhere. Anytime you see something on Creepshow, there's just the image of you know, the father standing there with the severed head on the cake, and, you know, he's like saying, it's Father's Day and I got my cake, you know. And it's great. It definitely pays off, and it's just a good little story. It's a good, you know, ghost story. And but I don't know, the more I watch it, I guess I get bored with it now. I mean, keep in mind, I've seen this fucking movie over and over again, so things are going to be a little more redundant to me. But, you know, I'm still entertained by most of the stories, you know. It's just that this one it's just a little lackluster. And I think that the characters don't really sit well with me, too. I think that's another thing. I don't really like that Richard character. He's just kind of a bitch, you know. You know, I think it's Warner Shook that plays him, and he's just not the greatest to me. I mean, he had only done like another. He was in George Romero's Night Riders, and I don't know. He's just kind of like a cockmaster. And then, like, the main girl, Cass, which I can't remember. I don't remember her name in real life, but I think it's the only movie that she's ever done too. And you have Ed Harris, who stands out, and maybe that's just because, you know, he's famous, and we all know Ed Harris now. But even to me when I was younger, before I really knew who Ed Harris was, he seemed to me like he was just kind of more of a standout character. Maybe that's just, because he was a better actor. I mean, you look at some of these other people in Father's Day, and they just don't really. I mean, other than let's see, the greatest fucking performance. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place here, but the greatest performance to me, it's hard to say because I like Carrie Nye too. I think it's Carrie Nye. She's the old woman, Dick Cabot's wife. I think Dick Cabot was married to her, but she's the one who's telling the story. She's actually kind of keeping things together for the most part. I like her character. She's real creepy, and she's just like this bougie fucking creepy woman. The way she spins the story, she's like the glue that kind of holds things together. But then you have Vivica Lindfors, which is she's great. And I remember her back from when she did the old fucking movie when I was a kid. The Errol Flynn movie. It was it Errol Flynn's Don Juan? I think it was, the Errol Flynn's The Real Don Juan or something. But yeah, I think that's what it is. She was in that, and she's just like you can tell she's like more of a classically trained actress. But Vivica Lindfors kind of steals the show as Aunt Bedelia. And I like the scene where she's in the cemetery, and she's drinking. And supposedly that scene was like improvised a lot. I think she went up to George Romero and asked him if she could, basically just improvise. And it's a good scene, not only because it's the part when, Nathan Grantham comes out of the ground. I mean, that part's fucking awesome, but it's her performance. And I didn't think her character was going to die that quick whenever I first saw it, I remember. But, that kind of gets the gears turning in that segment. That part when he comes out of the ground, you're like, oh shit, okay. But then it kind of just gets a little repetitive. And towards the end, it definitely, it has that surprise ending. And I love the severed head on the cake. But, it just kind of amounts to not much. But I love Ed Harris in it. Like I said, Carrie Nye, good performance. Vivica Lindfors, like I said, steals the show. I don't really care much for the cast character, although she's pretty hot. I just don't know what happened to her. Not a fan of, like I said, not a fan of Richard, the Warner Shook guy. Although I do love the character of Nathan Grantham. Not the old guy, but Nathan Grantham in zombie form. That's actually, for those who don't know, the guy who plays the zombie in Father's Day is John Amplas, who was also in, countless George Romero movies. He was in Martin. He actually played Martin. That fucking movie needs to come out. That movie needs to come out on Blu-ray. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think there's something held up with the rights. Because I think it's out in the UK, but it's just not out here in the US. But man, Martin needs a fucking Blu-ray release, definitely. Need it on 4K. But yeah, Martin. John Amplas is in Martin. God, that's such a good. I'm sorry, like I keep thinking about Martin. I'm getting off track here, but I love Martin. It's like one of the best fucking vampire movies ever, and it still does not have a Blu-ray release. That is just fucking insane. But anyway, John Amplas was in Martin. John Amplas was in Day of the Dead, and he played Martinez in Dawn of the Dead. He was like he had brown face on. He was doing brown face in that movie. But yeah, John Amplas played the zombie in Father's Day. But anyway, I think that's really about all. It's really about all I can say about Father's Day. I like the one thing I do like Father's Day. I like how Ed Harris dies. That was a good little death. It always reminds me that his head gets crushed by the tombstone, I think. It always kind of reminded me of how Brad Dourif died in that movie, The Graveyard Shift. Remember that shit? If you haven't seen Graveyard Shift, check it out. That's another Stephen King adaptation there. Okay, so my number 3, my number 3, I think so. Yeah. Number 3 would have to be They're Creeping Up on You. E.G. Marshall, fucking legendary. I remember watching him in the Tommy Knockers too. That's a good movie, good miniseries there. But E.G. Marshall, fucking 12 Angry Men, also in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But yeah, E.G. Marshall just plays this fucking horrible, just racist, tyrannical, insane, fucking just out of control, like germaphobe dude, and it totally works. Like, it's just you're with him the whole time, so you get to witness like a lot of his pathos, or there's just this psychotic behavior, and what would you say, like idiosyncrasies, and there's a lot of nuance to this character, and the way E.G. Marshall plays it is just fucking to perfection. It's like, it must be so fun for actors to play detestable piece of shit characters, because that's what this guy is. But at the same time, you like being with him. You like being with this guy, but you just can't wait until these fucking roaches tear him apart. But E.G. Marshall's great. Fuck, I just remembered, Superman 2, he was in that also. But anyway, back in the day, They're Creeping Up on You, I think, was one of my least favorites. But I don't know. It's just, to me, I like it more and more, definitely because of E.G. Marshall. And it does kind of sum up the movie really well. Like, they're creeping up on you. It just kind of gives you that Creepshow vibe. That there's always something creepy, just right around the corner, or just a few feet away from you. And if you're a fucking bug phobe, or whatever you call it, like, I don't know. See, my mom is like real arachnophobic, so she fucking hates spiders and shit. If you don't like bugs, creepy crawly shit, you're gonna hate that particular segment. But I love it. It's just got like an old school feel to it. It's the kind of horror that you don't see much of anymore. About critters, and because you kind of saw a lot of this stuff in the 70s. And there was always like, I guess you saw some of it in the 50s too. But it was just a lot of stories about mutated creatures, or hell, just movies about insects. You just don't see much of that anymore. I think a lot of people think it's played out. Some people think, a lot of that old science fiction stuff is just like it doesn't work anymore. Like the formula is just a little too antiquated, and and maybe some of these movies are a little too tongue-in-cheek for people. But I feel like They're Creeping Up on You is just it's a good story about this selfish asshole basically gets killed by what scares him the most. And those are always like the best stories. And it just reminds you of the old EC horror comics, which, I mean, most people know by now. If you're a Creepshow fan, you know exactly where George Romero and Stephen King got the idea to do this shit. But it was a good collaboration between those two. Because Stephen King's just got such a childish mind. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's always thinking about the kind of the shit that scares you the most. Like, almost, from like a child's perspective. So when you watch it as an adult, you can still understand. You kind of go back to your roots, and you think about that shit. You think about, stuff that's, underneath the floor, or stuff that's underneath your bed or in the closet. And, or, what's in the dark corners, what's down in the basement, what's in the attic, shit like that. But I think that's what I like about They're Creeping Up on You. What else can I say? E.G. Marshall's performance, fucking top notch, and Tom Savini's effects. Those roaches, which I heard they spent like fucking well over $100,000 for those roaches. It was probably the most expensive thing. I don't know about I think I heard it was the most expensive prop. Like those roaches, they cost like 50 cents per roach, and they needed like, I think, a quarter of a million of them. And so it seems like Romero said that was the most expensive part of that segment, or maybe even the movie for that matter. But They're Creeping Up on You. Great segment. Nothing really else I can say about it. Just watch the shit. It's fucking classic. Anyway, moving on. My number 2 tale would have to be something to tide you over. I think that's the name of it. May just be called Tide. I don't know. But anyway, it's the the one with Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson. Now a lot of people don't really like this one, but I enjoy it. And honestly, going back to the acting, that's what it is for me. It's the acting. Ted Danson, this was right before he was like on Cheers and shit. I think around this time Ted Danson had only done a couple movies. He had just come off of Body Heat, and yeah, this was definitely right before Cheers, I believe. And it's just it's a good story. Like I remember watching it when I was very young and just really wanting to know what the fuck it was about. I had no idea what it was about. I was kind of confused on the whole like adulterous shit. I didn't really know much about adultery when I was real young, and I definitely caught on as the story progressed, but I wanted to know what it was leading to, and it kind of it sets things up like who's the bad guy. I mean, you obviously know that Leslie Nielsen kind of has this creepiness to him. I mean, just the way he portrays that character, and I think his character was named Richard too. There's a lot of Richards in this movie, but anyway, Leslie Nielsen plays the character real. He's just like he's a sleaze, but Ted Danson's kind of a creep too, So it's like you don't really know. Like both of these guys are exhibiting dubious behavior, and as you don't really know who to trust yet, and because what can I say? They're both just pretentious douchebags. Like they both act like their shit doesn't stink, and they both come from money, or they look like they do. They just look like high class assholes. But anyway, I love the way Leslie Nielsen plays the character of Richard, and what was it? Ted Danson's name? Was it Wentworth? Yeah, he when I was a kid, I'd already seen like 3 Men and a Baby, and Cheers. Obviously, I already knew who Ted Danson was, so I thought it was cool that he was in this, this fucking horror movie. And when he gets buried up to his neck, I just that's when I really started getting interested in that story. And I will say that's just so fucking creative to me. I think that's the one aspect of that story that I just enjoy. When I saw him get buried like that, I was like, man, fuck, that is, anybody who would do something like that is off their rocker. And I just think that's a good idea. I mean, to do that to somebody would be kind of be awesome, if you hated them, if they were like fucking your wife. And yeah, I just think Leslie Nielsen plays that character just perfectly. And for as many spoof movies as he's done, Leslie Nielsen can play it fucking straight when he needs to, and he's actually quite menacing. Like when you watch the movie, when you watch that segment, he really he's scary. Like he is legit scary. He should have gone on to play more villains, in my opinion, but he became the king of spoof. So you had, and I mean that's fine. He was good at it, but I wish Leslie Nielsen had done a lot more serious roles like he did back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. I remember he was in the Poseidon Adventure, was it Forbidden Planet, shit like that. Leslie Nielsen was good. I mean, he could really act when he needed to, but he just he got pigeonholed. It's like once he started working with the Zucker brothers, it was all just farts and pratfalls. But I love Leslie Nielsen. I think that's honestly, he's the one. He steals just the whole fucking segment. But Ted Danson's good too. Even Galen Ross, which a lot of people, I mean, most people probably, most horror fans know this shit. Galen Ross was, what was her name? His name was Harry. Ted Danson was Harry. And what was her name? Becky. Yeah. And, she played it good. I remember when I first saw that, I didn't know that was her. And I had seen Dawn of the Dead, countless times, but I didn't know it was her. And I remember in the credits, she's credited as Galen Ross, because I remember like seeing her in the credits, and I was like, where was Galen Ross? She had dark hair, And I was like, where's I was looking for the blonde hair that she had in Dawn of the Dead. But yeah, she did a good job. And I like the story. It's kind of a slow build, but I like that slow burn. And it's not the kind of slow burn that you get in Father's Day. Father's Day, I just found that things were a little monotonous. I didn't get that with the Tide story. I was constantly guessing what was gonna happen. Or I was wondering what was gonna happen. And it definitely, it's a slow build, but once you get to it, once that climactic moment happens, you know that they're back from the dead. And at the very end when they bury him up to his neck, I mean, that's fucking genius. It's just the ultimate payoff. At that moment, I just remember wanting the story to go on longer. I wanted more. And I could say that for most of the stories in Creepshow. It's like you kind of just want them to keep going, because all of them kind of leave you on such a good cliffhanger. I like the way Romero filmed the Tide story too. If you look at most of the stories, they all kind of have a different look to them. Even though, I mean, you can kind of tell that, I mean, they're all Romero's vision. But he does different stuff with the camera in each of the stories. And that's what I was saying about, like, how they kind of have their own little tone. They all have their own feel. Is because I just remember there was a lot of, like, Dutch angle shots in the Tide story that I thought was, real unsettling. And if you watch, like, The Crate, there's, a lot of that Dario Argento style lighting. Shit looks like Suspiria. They all just have a different look. And I think most of it comes down to production design and lighting. Camera moves, maybe not so much, but I mean, but each of them they just have their own unique flavor. But that's about all I can say about the Tide story. I don't want to spend too much time on these because we are going to do a commentary for Creepshow in the near future. So I already mentioned it, The Crate. That is my number fucking one. And I mean, people can hate me if they want. I actually think that most people like The Crate. I feel like The Crate ranks up there as most horror fans' number one story, in Creepshow. Some people think it's too long, and I'll give them that. But dude, there should have been a fucking feature-length movie about The Crate. I'd watch it. I'd watch the shit out of it. The Crate should have been its own thing, honestly. I love it. I love Fluffy. And they set it up for a fucking sequel. They set it up perfectly for a sequel. And it's like, it kind of reminded me of The Fog. John Carpenter's The Fog. And, I mean, not because it had Adrienne Barbeau in it. I mean, that might be part of it. But, it just had, it also has, Hal Holbrook in it, too. I mean, honestly, that might be the reason why it's reminded me of The Fog. But, I just think that, like, that story, it just has such a good feel to it. Like, when you watch it, you get so locked into that story. Like, you care about Hal Holbrook's character. And once again, the acting. I know I keep mentioning the acting, but I mean, the actors that Romero got for fucking Creepshow, it's like, how did he get these people? I mean, these were A-list motherfuckers. Every actor was fucking superb. And I want to say that, like, it was the first time Romero had like a number one movie at the box office too, because I mean, Creepshow was a big hit, but it just, all the players in the movie just do a great fucking job. Like Fritz Weaver, he's really good in The Crate. But yeah, Adrienne Barbeau, she steals it. She steals it, and like, I just, you hate that character so much. You can't wait for her to get her just desserts. But Hal Holbrook, he's beaten down so much by her, and that's what I love about that one the most, because it's a lot like those old comics, where you just had like a character who was so over the top and insane. It's like you knew they were gonna die, but you just wanted to know how. It's like you knew it was coming, but you were just like, okay, I know this motherfucker is gonna die, but I just want to know how. Like, are they gonna get their fucking head ripped off? Are they, is she gonna get her tits ripped off, or spine fucking tore out? You know, throat slit. There's all, you just start picturing a lot of the grotesque ways that some of these atrocious characters will die. And it makes it fun. I just remember when I first watched it, I was like, okay, I know the character of Billy's gonna die. I'm looking forward to that part. But then you start learning about Fluffy, and it's like, I love how they get this crate from, was it Horlicks University? It kind of reminded me of a fucking H.P. Lovecraft story, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I feel like, I wasn't reading H.P. Lovecraft at the time, and to be honest, I didn't like the crate when I was a kid. I liked parts of it, but I just remember wanting it to fucking end. Like I said, I love it now, and I feel like it needs to be its own feature-length thing. I would love that if they would have, if somebody would have kind of taken that ball and ran with it, because it was a good idea. But when I was a kid, I just felt like it overstayed its welcome. I felt like it was drawn out too long, because I don't know. I think it's I haven't looked yet, but I know it's got to be over 45 minutes. Seems like it's 45 minutes, well over it. But I don't think that really hurts it. It needed to be, Fluffy needed to be his own character. Like, like I said, you could have made a sequel with Fluffy. Fluffy should have been in Creepshow 2. They should have just, continued on with the crate. But, what else can you say about the crate? It's great. The crate is great. And Hal Holbrook, one of the funniest scenes in the crate is when he's trying to force Adrienne Barbeau down there, and the creature's not getting there for some reason, and you're wondering why. Like, that scene, I laugh every time I watch it. Like, at first when I watched it, I was like, shit, is it not gonna get her? But it's just, I don't know. You could say, about every story in Creepshow, you could say that there's just like this hilarity that just runs through it. Like, every story has just got such a great sense of humor, like that macabre type humor. But that's about all I can say, guys. Like I said, I didn't want to be too long-winded with this one. So I wanted to just kind of briefly go over the Creepshow segments and rank them, most importantly. But that's my ranking. Let me know what you guys think. And I probably should do Creepshow 2. Definitely not going to do Creepshow 3. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, Creepshow 2, I think and this is just getting off subject because it's not the first one, but if I had to rank the stories in Creepshow 2, I may have covered this in the Creepshow 2 commentary we did, and it may have changed by now, but my ranking of those, I think my least favorite would have to be Chief Woodenhead, although it's great. I love it. It's awesome. Good story of revenge. But it's my least favorite. My number 2, The Hitchhiker. It's scary. I love it. It's relentless. It's brutal. Well, it's just not my number 1. My number 1 would be The Raft. And that story just never gets old. I can watch The Raft over and over again. It's just a great story. But yeah, that's about all I can say. And I feel like there's something I didn't say, but there's also just so much about Creepshow that I could talk about. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you've seen Creepshow, leave a comment and tell me how much you like it. If I can put your ranking in the comment section, and I'd love to see some feedback from you guys. But Creepshow, yeah, check it out. Good fucking movie. It's like I said, it's no masterpiece. It's nothing that, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. Maybe top 50 or something. But it definitely needs to be seen by fans of anthologies. If you love just ghost stories, campfire stories, you need to check it out because it's great. Stephen King and George Romero, that was the ultimate collaboration. And all these came from the mind of Stephen King. I mean, even I think most of the stories in the second one, even though George Romero scripted Creepshow 2, I believe he did the screenplay for it. Most of those stories seem like they came from Stephen King. But yeah, it's just, I mean, these movies are great. Creepshow 3 is a piece of shit, and we're not even going to talk about that one. But the first Creepshow, it's just, you watch it and you'll feel kind of like a kid, when you watch it, because I think that's mostly who it's appealing to. It's like, especially now with the whole Fear Street thing on Netflix going on, there's a lot of these, horror anthologies and stuff, and, Goosebumps and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, things like that. It feels like they're making more horror nowadays that is geared towards kids, but it's fun for adults too. It's got a little bit of both. You get kind of like the cheap scares and the gimmicky stuff, that the humor, that appeals to kids, and then, for adults, you get more of like maybe some gore, shit like that. But I feel like it's I don't want to say family friendly, but it kind of appeals to everybody, general audiences. That's what's fun about anthologies, is that it kind of appeals to the kid in you sometimes. I'm not a big fan of like I said, I'm not a big fan of every anthology. I feel like some of them are just a little too schlocky, but if you balance that tone right, if you tell the right stories about people returning from the dead, I mean, you can never go wrong with stuff like that. But I feel like what made Creepshow good, and also like a lot of those EC horror comics, they always dealt with somebody having to pay for some ultimate sin. And I think that's what is appealing about most of these stories, is that you can't wait for these motherfuckers to die. You want to see them pay for the fucked up shit that they've done, and I think that's just good drama in general. But anyway, I don't want to start rambling here, so I'm just gonna shut the fuck up. And yeah, guys, fucking enjoy this weather, this rainy weather. I don't know if it's raining where you're at, but it is where I'm at, my neck of the woods. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm about to pop in a fucking horror movie, and I'm sorry this was like a fucking lethargic episode. Yeah, but it's some last minute off the cuff shit that I wanted to talk about. Like I said, that guy on Facebook, he just kind of agitated me when he criticized Creepshow. I mean, look, you have every right to criticize Creepshow, but you're fucking wrong. You're wrong. It's a great movie. You just got to get into it. And I feel like some people just think it's too dated nowadays, and that might be the case. But George Romero could tell a fucking tale. Like, he knew how to tell good stories, because he always had some, emotional resonance behind him. There was always something that was really important to society or culture. The advancement of the human race. Romero always kind of tapped into, deep psychological themes or things that were relevant to that particular era in which the story was told. But anyway, if you haven't checked out a lot of George Romero's works, Creepshow just doesn't do it justice. You have to look at his whole body of work, and I think that makes you kind of appreciate Creepshow even more when you look at George Romero's filmography. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. If you would, please stab the like button. Be sure to comment, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about this shit. And you've been listening to me, Dick, and I'll have something new for you guys this week, maybe next week, I don't know. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. You've been listening to Popcorn on the Macabre. See you guys.